Hey guys, that's the paper pad I'm using today, and it's sped up and I didn't even realise that you probably won't be able to see it. Now I am scrapping on this particular occasion some more of Angela's AFL photos from her games throughout this past season. What I wanted to show you on this particular layout is you can have the most basic materials and you can create a beautiful layout. That's what I'm sort of running with. So I am cutting out my circles by hand. I am using the stencil. This stencil is, let me see, get it on the right page and I'll give you the right information. So the stencil that I'm using is a TCW stencil, the Crafters Workshop. It's called Mini Layered Circles and it's a BALZER designed stencil. So I really like this stencil. I picked it up for like $3. It was an absolute bargain and it's got some different size circles. Now what you'll notice that I'm doing here is I'm cutting my photos into shapes, which I do not do very often anymore. I used to do it years ago, but I haven't done it in a while. But sticking with the Keep It Simple in September, Keep It Simple September, I wanted to show you that you can use your photos for ephemera, essentially. So you don't need to spend an absolute, I mean, yes, we all spend an absolute fortune and we all buy all the things. I get that. But I want to draw attention to the fact that you don't necessarily need to. Now, when it comes to cutting these circles out, I'm using my Tim Holtz mini snips. These they are slightly perforated and that helps me stop and not overcut, if that makes sense. You know, sometimes when you go to cut out a circle or anything with a curved edge and you end up, it's like a hexagon because you've got straight bits. You haven't got it to curve. These scissors were a game changer for me. They sort of helped me stop, if that makes sense. I know that sounds a little weird, but the large ones are exactly the same. So you will see me literally cutting out my title out of these papers. Now, when I bought this particular paper pack, it's from Paper Rose Studio, which is an Aussie company. Love it. It's called Happy Stitches, and I used paper D. That was my main backing paper. And I think the letter was F, I think, from memory. Now, basically, I decided these letters on the back. When I got this set, I don't know what I thought I was getting versus what I got. When I got it, I felt a little bit like, how am I going to use this? So I figured during Keep It Simple September, I'm going to pull that pack out and I made sure that I was going to at least do one layout in September using this paper pack because I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to find a way that I can love all of the paper pack. Now, it's all about stitches. So it's all stitched paper. The print is all stitched. So it kind of lends yourself to automatically go, oh, I might stitch over where it's stitched and follow it, you know. But that's not really me. I don't like the say truck, see truck thing. I don't like that. So I am literally cutting them out and creating my title out of these stitched letters. Now, I don't make you watch me cut out all of this, and you can see that every so often I pause the video, finish cutting them out, and then bang, it's done. That's purely because, I'll be honest with you, this particular day I did 4 layouts, recorded all of them, and if I had have left all of every single step in, honestly, these videos would be so long. It would just be insane. So bear with me whilst some I edit. This particular one I edited because I was struggling a little bit. Yesterday's video, because that particular one, it went over so many days. When I got to this one, I had sort of overwhelmed myself and I had to just get back to the Keep It Simple September analogy and just regroup. So what I've done, you can see I've got blue tape all over these photos. That's because obviously they are other players and, you know, copyright, all that sort of stuff. So I am, the only face you can actually see in any of this is Angela or Jennifer or Lexi. I don't mean play it like, oh, that was Jen saying hi. Now, the other thing was, with these titles, when I put them down, they sort of weren't popping. Stick around to the end and you will see how they come together and how they pop. I'm so sorry, I just yawned. Why is it every time I come in here in the afternoon to do a voiceover, I start yawning? Haven't yawned all day, although I did have a terrible night's sleep last night. Wow, I do not know what was going on, but it was crazy bad. I was awake and asleep and awake and asleep, and it was just insane. And we didn't even have a storm last night, so, you know. But now, this is where I decided, because I was going to cut my title out, and then on the back side of that paper, I was going to use the blue to go around my photos. But when I popped them down, it didn't make the photos pop. And I thought, well, obviously it's all about the photos. And these are just photos that I have just snapped throughout the season. Some are wins, some are losses, some are on really, really old scoreboards. Some are on beautiful new shiny flash ones. But at the end of the day, it's just, I wanted to scrap it and I wanted to get it all down. As you can see, I do have a rectangle photo there, and that's of the entire team at the beginning of the season. And I wanted to have that on this page and sort of tie it in, but it didn't really go with the circles, and it just overtook everything. It didn't look right. I don't know why, but it didn't look right. Now, this is the other Paper Rose paper that I wanted to use, because I've got to tell you, the Moreton Bay Lions, they have a maroon uniform, and I've got to tell you, same as Brisbane Lions, right? But I don't have anything that's maroon. This sounds stupid, but I do not have anything that is just a true maroon. I don't have lumberjack plaid. I have to mix lumberjack plaid and fired brick to get a maroon colour when it comes to the distress range. Lumberjack, don't get me wrong, I love lumberjack plaid, but it's not quite maroon. It's more, I haven't bought a new trimmer, by the way. I just had the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong one. That was my rotary trimmer that I had to start with, but it cut the paper just fine before I realised what I was doing. Now, I trimmed it down. I wanted it to have a white border. My camera is struggling because I keep flicking it around. Give us a second. Now, this is where I wanted to, because I have to keep moving things around for it to start to come together. And I needed to get this title down because the font was probably a little bit larger than I was hoping for, but I work with it. It's okay. Now, I've just put a bit of tape on the back of my photos just so I can move them around and get it sort of situated. And I really quite like that. Now, all those little circles off to the side there, keep them, because it just brings it all together in the end. Now, I know I just moved that all off again, but this is where I got the idea. You know what? These little circles, and I'm going to just cut with my craft knife. I'm just going to cut waves through. I wanted to, with all these stripes, obviously I could quite easily go ahead and I could cut them out and go down that path. But I chose not to do that. I thought, no, I'm going to try and show you guys another way that you can use striped paper without simply cutting it out straight up, you know, into straight lines, or cutting it into small pieces, or punching it, or blah, 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 blah. So, as you can see, once I put those lines there, then I thought, all right, now the bubbles will sit inside those grooves. And then I thought, okay, I need to somehow soften. The Paper Rose Studio papers, they are, they've got a sheen to them. So I actually don't mind that. I don't really have a preference either way with it, but they do have a slight sheen to it. And when it comes to softening it, I had to choose my item wisely because I added a bit of water to my white acrylic paint and it just wiped straight off. So I had to sort of figure something out. Hindsight, another thing I could have done here was used my emery boards. I've got nail files and I could have scuffed it up. I could have done it that way. This kind of gives me a little bit more control and I've got a bit more, what can I say? I use paint a lot more than distressing, and I didn't want to distress the daylights out of this because something that I've noticed I've been doing a lot of, I don't mind distressing around my photos, but I don't know, it's starting to feel a bit old, distressing everything. So you don't want to see every single layout, and it's predictable that I'm going to distress something. You don't want that. So I decided I would continue and define these lines where they've been cut a little bit more. And I just brought in my finer paintbrush just to give a little bit more definition to where the scooped out pieces are. Now remember, I haven't actually removed any of the cardstock. I've just cut a line in it and I've just freehanded that. It's not meant to be perfect. I'm not trying to create perfection with it. I'm just creating slots that I can stick my little bubble photos in. Now, as I'm doing this, it's coming together. It's in my head. I've finally realized where it's going and what I'm doing with it. It's totally working. So I do realize, because I quite often, and you guys know this, I like to use either black or white to highlight or to enhance something. Now, that's fantastic. But again, you don't want to see the same thing every time. But if it's not broke, don't change it, basically. So I decided that I was going to try and stick with the whites, and because there's white lines, horizontal lines, and there's all white borders, and the letters had white. So I thought, you know what, this is working. It's just all the whites instead of blacks. But then I realized, it was about here that I started to realize that my title's not popping. I know that I like an offset when it comes to my titles, and you sort of think to yourself, well, okay, if it's the offset that you're looking for, but that wasn't it. I didn't need an offset. I wanted to, and I do that when I do my cricket titles. I like having an offset, but when I could do titles like this, I just wanted it to just be about this collection. And you can see once I put these little bits of the photos that I cut out in the smaller circles, I realize what the problem is. I need to put a white border around all these little tiny photos. You would think this took forever. It didn't. It really did not. I will be 100% transparent with you. This actually took me about an hour and a half from start to finish, and I didn't use any of my electric tools. I didn't use my Cricut. I didn't use anything like that. It was just paper, scissors, template. That's it. So you guys know 100% if I do something and there's a stuff up in it, I will leave it in there. If there's something that takes me forever, I will tell you it takes forever. This is completely doable. And I mean, I was doing it in an hour and a half. And the thing is, when I record what I'm doing for you guys, I have to be really mindful of that my head's out of the way, that everyth's lined up straight. So I'm looking up at a TV monitor to make sure that everything's going down straight. There's a lot of things in the background that over time you get better at gauging it, but it does add extra time to creating the layout. Now you can see there, I did cut out the piece where I put the white around all the little circles. And when I did that, that's when it started to come together for me. Now, I'm using my white pigment pen, and then I realized, why am I doing that? I should be using my POSCA paint pen. it will flow much better on here because it's a slick surface. So I just pulled out, you could use anything here. You could use glasses, you could use a cup, you could use, you might not want it to be circles, you might want it to be hexagons or something like that. You pick your thing. I'm using my Creative Memories circle cutting system to trace around. I'm also using the stencil. That helped as well. This is when I realized that because there's black in the photos, and I say this all the time, if you have it 3 times on a layout, it helps it pop. So the photos have dark in them, but if these photos were all just the bright sunny ones, I think it would have worked okay. But what I've found is by having the just being all white, it was too two-dimensional. That's what I think the problem is. You tell me, put it down below, let me know what you think. Do you think that it was working just all in the white? Or do you agree that very shortly when I pull out a black pen, that it works? Now, I just ran down just on the colored pieces and I did a double line just to add some extra definition to the ends of it. I was actually thinking of a few of the girls this year when they hit like 50 games and 100 games, that sort of thing. They had banners, and that's what these lines reminded me of. And as I was cutting it, I'm like, oh, that it sort of looks a little bit like the giant banner that they run through when it's got sort of the waves in it. And I mean, this is Angela's first season, but that's what it reminded me of. This is where I decided, okay, I think I know what I need to do. I need to add black on here in 3 different places. So I've got the dark in the photos, and then I needed, look, hindsight, I could have gone around the title with ink. I could have done it like that. I could have just grabbed some paint. Instead, I pulled out my UNIBALL SIGNO BROARD gel pen, and I decided to go around the edges of the whole thing, and it really helped it pop. Now, I'm trying to keep my head out of the way. Don't make you watch me go all the way around all of them, because it actually comes together really quickly. Like, it's not difficult, but by all means, any means. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that black line helps the title pop. And remember, that was just a sheet that you get in the pack, and it just has A to Z on the back of it. And I just cut them out and use them as the title. So, you know, that's always handy as well. Now, by adding these black circles onto the background, that's just adding my 3rd bit of black. And I really like how it came together at this point. I was liking it, but I wasn't loving it. And then once I did this, I'm like, that's it, Karen. That's it. You got it. And now I like it a lot more. I didn't want to fill in any of the circles and make them solids. I didn't want to do that because I thought, you know, that just might make it too heavy. And I really like how it turned out. Let me know below if you've watched all the way to the end. Thank you so, so much. Now I'm going to do my shameless plug because, you know, got to do these things. When it comes to my channel, I did check my analytics because it came through, and I've got about a 30%, I've still got about a 30% watch rate where people haven't subscribed. So I'm here to tell you it's free. It does absolutely nothing, doesn't cost you anything. But what it does is it helps the algorithm when you search scrapbooking. It makes my channel pop up. And if you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, you will know every single time I load up a video. And I do load up 6 videos a week. So you do get a lot of content from me. So, you know, and this is my way of bringing it to you free by me simply doing monetization from YouTube instead of charging you directly. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And I will be back soon with some more. Bye for now.